And especially good afternoon to you, Your Excellency, Governor Mapp, and Your Excellency, Secretary Sinki, and all of you friends here in this beautiful island. It is indeed an honor for me to be here today, and it's a great pleasure to be back at your beautiful island. I will never forget when I was here for the first time. It is more than 10 years ago, and it was together with my old father, who had a lifelong dream to visit the islands. And I will never forget the view from my plane seat when we approached Cyril E. King Airport. And he brought the experience for wonderful days here with him in his heart until he passed away. So it's nice to be back. And my wife and I have been greeted by sincere hospitality from the moment we arrived. And for this, we are both very grateful. We are very pleased to be here. And I want to deliver to you the same message as I did earlier today, some hours ago, early this morning in St. Croix, because it is essential for me to say what I'm about to say. On this exact day, 100 years ago, the Stars and Stripes of America replaced the Danish Dannebrog as the official flag of St. Thomas, St. Croix and St. John. It's 100 years ago and 2 hours. So it's a long time ago. But the preceding years under the Danish flag are not forgotten, neither in Denmark nor at the Virgin Islands. Still today, city names such as Charlotte, Amalie and Frydendal remind us of our common past. And so do the many houses and buildings that still bear the marks of Danish presence. I'm pleased that thousands of my fellow countrymen visit your beautiful island every year, and this year in particular, many of them here today. And they are here today because they feel a special bond to you and your home. Bond of friendship, bond of destiny, and so do I, as I stand here on this historic day. A touch of common destiny that time cannot erase. But although we share a common past, we have not always shared the same story about that past. When I was a child, almost half a century ago, the popular Danish story about the West Indies was a romantic one. Exotic islands, peaceful coexistence. I even remember the tales of the Danish king, who was the first in the world to ban slave trade. A true pioneer of humanity, we were told. A hero. But most of you were told and lived a different story. The true story. A story of how slavery continued after the ban. How too often conditions only improved on paper. And of how many of your ancestors continue to suffer. The true heroes were the men and women who stood up to the injustice. Over the years, our history has been explored and questioned, and today we can study the millions of historic documents and pictures from the Virgin Islands. They are now accessible online thanks to the Danish National Archives. Many of them are so precious they have been proclaimed as World Heritage by UNESCO. And sure, it is important to get the facts right. It is important. But I suggest that we also look somewhere else, in our hearts and in our minds. I suggest we ask ourselves, is there any justification for suppression? Any argument for treating people brutally? And we all know the answer by heart. The answer is no. There is no justification whatsoever for the exploitation of men, women and children that took place in these very islands under Danish flag. There is no justification for slavery. It is unforgivable. Unforgivable. So it's a dark and disgraceful part of Danish history. So when I search my heart and my mind, there's no doubt, the true heroes of the past are the men and women of the Virgin Islands who defied suppression. They were not giving their freedom. They took it back, led by brave souls. Brave souls who risked their own lives to set their fellow countrymen free. Men like General Budo, who led the rebellion of 1848, riding on a white horse, fighting for emancipation, imprisoned, deported, but at the end successful, fulfilling his mission. Fierce women like Queen Mary, Queen Agnes, Queen Matilda, who rebelled against the appalling living conditions, healthcare, education and wages, imprisoned in Denmark, right next to the Danish Parliament. Patriots like David Hamilton Jackson, a teacher and a true idealist who dedicated his life to improve the conditions for the people of the Virgin Islands by peaceful but passionate means. The story goes that when David Hamilton Jackson once criticized the Danish governor in a very harsh tone, the governor replied by calling Jackson a dreamer. A dreamer. And this was probably meant as an insult. But isn't it rather a badge of honor? Because only when we dare to dream, when we dare to dream of a brighter future, will the beacons of freedom be at sight. This was the case for Mr. Hamilton Jackson, and that is the case for us all. So dear friends, we must acknowledge what happened in the past has affected where the islands are today. It has affected where the islands are today. We cannot undo the past. What we can do is to improve the future. Only by freeing ourselves from the nightmares of the past can we make our dreams of the future come true. And this is the lesson learned from the true heroes of the past. Despite overwhelming obstacles, their ideals of liberty, equality and dignity prevailed. Today, the people of Denmark and the people of the Virgin Islands share common historic bonds. And today, finally, we share the same view of history. And today, we share the same heroes. And hopefully, we share a bright future together. Tomorrow, I will make a visit to the University of the Virgin Islands, where I will launch a 5-year scholarship program. It is my hope. Thank you. It is my hope that this new program will pave the way for further development in both our countries and bring new hope and new opportunities to young people in the Virgin Islands. The youth of our countries are the future. They must keep their dreams alive. They must take destiny into their own hands, just as the Virgin Island heroes of the past did. And this time around, ladies and gentlemen, we will not hold them back. We will push them forward. I wish you all a meaningful and memorable transfer day. Thank you very much.
Wow, people people of the Virgin Islands, did you hear it? There's no justification for suppression. Unforgivable, the dark and disgraceful part of the history. And he is working towards improvement in the future. I thank you. And I'm excited about the University of the Virgin Islands. I teach there, and I see another professor in our audience who also teaches there, and there may be many. But we saw several of our students in the bands today.